Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are getting incredibly close at this point. I'm noticing that this radio mount parachute isn't moved. I opened the auto-saved ship. I did not open the actual ship. There we go. Perfect. So last episode we worked a little bit on our rovers and they are feeling much more ready. So I think that we're getting to the point where we might want to start working on some rover delivery. And that'll be great. Now, one thing I do want to think about is the location of these drogue chutes. I'm actually going to move them to be a little bit more centrally located, about like that. And yeah, that does tell me that these wheels are slightly off center. That's not shocking, in all honesty. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the overall plan for this mission, okay? So, what we need to do is we need to have a couple of goals here, and these goals will create additional goals, if that makes any sense. So, let's go over to Eve here, and our current initial goal is, I just want to double check. I know I've done this several times, but I want to double check that we can get our item that we're looking for from Lowlands. Let's see here. We'd be looking for, where is it? Oh, these are the available ones, of course. The volcanic rock. That is available. Impact ejecta highlands or craters. Right, not lowlands. So actually, the location that our probe landed at is not where we want to land, because there is debris where we want to land. It's a little awkward, to be sure. There's debris in several locations over here. This is not one of them that we're interested in. In fact, I'm going to terminate this flight. This one is landed at Eve. Let's see if that's the one we're looking for. Fingers crossed. We need Highlands, Impact Ejecta, or Crater. Yeah, this one's Highlands. So this one is our landing site. Fantastic. So, with that there, we can't rename it, unfortunately. I do wish that we could. It would be very, very convenient, no doubt about that. But that is our landing site. And how are we going to target that from the ship? That is a heck of a question. For sure. But we know that it's this one that we want to land at, not this one, and not this one, because that one's at Lowlands. Let's check the contracts real quick. We haven't looked at that in a while. I was briefly looking over it. I'm not sure that there was anything that I wanted to do there. I mean, science data from surface of the moon is super easy to do, but we might want the cash. I don't know. This is going to be a pretty expensive mission. But I think we'll hold off on that for now. We might come back to that. So, plan. I got a little sidetracked there. Let's go ahead and talk about what the actual plan is. So, at this piece of debris, right here. Oh, and we actually can see the latitude and longitude. That's very convenient. At this piece of debris, what we want is we want to be able to land at that location or very close to it. We want to be able to land 3 separate rovers. That will be our science rover, that will be our deployable rover, and that will be our mining rover. All 3 of those we want to land at that location. Then, we also want to land in our Ascent Module at that location, or very close to it. Just in that biome is what we're targeting for. So, that's going to be interesting, to be sure. Absolutely interesting. I mean, we can see it's pretty much equatorial, and we know the latitude and longitude of where we're looking for, so it should, in theory, be doable. So, we need to land those 3 things there. We need the Ascent Module to have enough fuel to come to a stop here. And we want it to stop here. So that's going to be interesting. And then we want it to drop in. And the stop would, of course, be relative to the launcher debris. Assuming we're able to target the debris, which we may or may not be able to do. It's going to be hard to tell. There might be a toggle to be able to target debris. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we're going to need enough fuel to do that. Then we're going to need to have the fuel remaining for the re-entry burn. And then that's going to need to land. And then hook up with the mining, the mining rover, which will then hopefully be able to mine at that location, which will then refuel the Ascent Module, which will then go back into orbit. We have just enough fuel to get into orbit. Just enough fuel to get into orbit. So, with that said, once we get into orbit, we're kind of done. We don't have anything else. We're going to need to refuel in orbit. So, that means that we're going to need a fuel tug somewhere out here. And I'm thinking, what if that fuel came from Gilly? We can run a quick test of our mining rover on Gilly, and we can at the same time be progressing the mission. That's what I'm currently thinking. Now, we'll need a completely different descent system for Gilly, right? That's completely understandable. But once we have that, then we should be able to quite economically refuel our Ascent Module and then bring that on home. So that's, I think, the overarching plan. We're going to need a fuel tug that can land on Gilly. And we're going to need to send a test version of the mining rover to Gilly to get working on that. And I think that's what we're going to work on for right now. So let's hop into the VAB. And once we are in here, then we will open up the Eve Module mining. That's this guy here. Now, on Gilly, this is going to be wildly overkill on the Gigantors. So I'm going to create a variant here and call this the Mining G variant for Gilly. And we're going to take the Gigantors down to simply a pair of Gigantors. We are absolutely not going to be needing 8 Gigantors on the surface of Gilly. I can tell you that right now. Otherwise, this is relatively good to go. I do think that we can definitely move our KER to be up top here, and I do want this to be snapped like so. And we can do that. And this is, of course, a wide load rover. That's okay. This should, in theory, do the job. Not necessarily quickly, but in theory, it should do the job. We do have active cooling on here, and plenty of it, so I think it'll be just fine. I'm reasonably certain of this. Let's go ahead and take this out to the pad, and let's see how it performs on Kerbin. Now, this is going to be with the sun being a little less powerful, as well as having an atmosphere, so that's something to consider, but overall this should be relatively comparable to being on Gilly. I do believe we need to switch this over to SAS only. Okay. And we appear to not have steering enabled on our wheels. Let's go ahead and enable our steering. Turn brakes on. Let's enable our steering over here. And the question is, yeah, that works nicely. I also want to enable our steering here on the back ones. And yeah, that'll do the trick. So, excellent. Now we're going to have a lot of power on Gilly. There's no doubt about that. We'll have to be pretty careful with this. There's no way I would let it accelerate like this on Gilly. We are pretty steady even with the SAS off. Pretty stable. I like it. Now we're just going to take this up over here and we're going to turn on the brakes. And we're going to deploy our drill here. Now, keep in mind, these aren't going to be mostly drilling and refining to these tanks. It's going to be mostly going through this docking port, right? But this will do for now. So we will go ahead and start our surface harvesters, and we will extend out our solar panels. Should probably do action groups for these, but I'm lazy. And we'll do some thermal control systems as well. Those are nicely shaded by the Gigantors. I like that. As far as heat goes here, we are dropping heat. That's good. And let's go ahead and start our liquid fuel and oxidizer. Now I'm expecting this, yes, to overheat. This was definitely expected. Unfortunately, that's just the way Convertitron 125s work. Not too much you can do about it. Where is the cap on this temperature? I don't know, but these 125s, they're designed to be pulsed. Like, if we were to time warp this, you can see that it'll just continually lose efficiency over time. Yeah, it starts to drop efficiency pretty quickly. Down to 50%, 40%, 30%, 20%. The next question is, how's our batteries holding out? Not super well. That's kind of okay, because we will drop our temperatures. We're missing ore. Because these surface harvesters are inactive. Okay. Sure. Well, that pretty much told me what I wanted to know, which was basically exactly what we assumed was going to be the case. So we're going to need to make some form of an Ascent module for this, right? So we're also going to need to have a way for this to land on Gilly. Now, one thing that we can definitely do is have this tank go up full. Then we could simply attach on like a pair or a quad of twitches. I mean, we could have twitches like up here. We wouldn't want to have it like this, but we could have a twitch up here acting as a nose. I like it. And then snap that into position and try to move that a bit centrally. Like so. And then we'd have another one. We'd move it up a bit too, probably. Kind of like that. And then we'd have another one that would go into the rear over here. Or maybe we'd have a couple that go over here. I don't know. I actually think it would work substantially better if it was like this. Let's see if we can get that turned around. There we go. And then we'll snap those into position. About like that. And about like that. Okay. So how long is this burn going to last? 12 seconds. That's not much of a burn. But over Gilly, this thrust to weight is going to be incredibly high. So we're not going to want to run these at maximum over Gilly at all. That should give us plenty of descent power. So in theory, over Kerbin, actually this does give us thrust to weight on Kerbin. We can run a quick simulation on Kerbin and see how this is going to go. I also want to do a quick landing test on Gilly just to see how it feels and how it flies. Okay, let's give this a go. Hilarious. I'm not shocked by this. Okay, let's revert that to the launch and see how it goes if we have SAS on. And the reason I'm not shocked by this is because our weight distribution isn't even. We have a lot more weight back here. I mean, it's better. was better with the SAS on. Okay, so we're going to try a real test here. That was just for fun. So we're going to put this a ways over Gilly. I mean, will we have any horizontal speed? No. But ultimately, let's just set our position to be Gilly and an altitude of, say, I don't know, 2,000 meters. And we're not going to ease it to the ground. Yes, this is going to put us going down pretty slow. But I mean, that's Gilly for you. Okay, so you can see here our thrust to weight is 301.15. So, I mean, it's going to take us forever to get to the bottom here. There's no doubt about that. We're apparently moving in orbit at 4.4 meters per second. I'm noticing our altitude is barely budging. We do have some amount of vertical speed here, but what I mostly want to test is not so much the landing, but more... Oh, we don't have any data here. This antenna should be extended. Will that give us our data? Yes, that gives us our data. Okay, so that's fine, and we'll just extend our Gigantors, I guess, and look at our power flow. Oh, this is plenty. This is absolutely plenty of power flow. Okay, so we will physics warp this down. This is incredibly slow. I mean, this is Gilly for you, right? This is about what we expect. So what I want to try now is just... I think we're going up right now, technically. Yeah, we are. So that's fascinating. We want to be on surface retrograde, which is technically over here. Now, we can't lock to surface retrograde with the rovemate, but that's okay. Excellent. So technically, we want to bring this to be over here. Kind of like this, except I want to push it over. That's not pushing it. Okay. I want to push it this way, but now bring it up. So I think I want to bring it to the horizon. No. Awkward. Okay, so that's very awkward. And in fact, I'm going to revert this back, and I'm going to add in a convenience. We're going to add in simply a remote guidance unit. Okay. There we go. That'll make things much, much simpler. So we'll save that, and this is basically ready at this point to be deployed to Gilly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place in a... Oh, I want to reroute this part, actually. So we'll reroute this to be the remote guidance unit as the root part. Okay, and then we'll just put in, say, an octagonal strut, and it doesn't really matter where it goes in theory, as long as it goes in over here. And we'll try to centrally locate that. Something not quite like that, but more like this. I want it to come this way a little bit, be about there. And that looks approximately correct. Okay, so now we're going to want a fairing on this thing, for sure. We don't want to lift this with this exposed the way it is. So we're going to put in a fairing, and it will be a 2.5 meter fairing. We're going to need more space, for sure. Okay. So we will put in some sort of a modular girder segment, or perhaps a modular girder adapter. It'll be fine. We'll just do a modular girder segment. With a little bit more space here, we may be able to build this fairing. Yeah. What's happening here? Okay. That's a little bit better. Let's bring this on up. I can't scroll up anymore, unfortunately. I want that to close. There. That'll work for our fairing. It's a little awkward, to be sure, but it'll get the job done. And then we'll make some sort of a maneuver stage here. And that will, of course, just be a Jumbo 64 and a Poodle. Like that. We do have Gigantors up there already, and we can utilize those, so that'll be fine. And then we'll need a decoupler on this. So we'll do a TD25. And then we're going to lift this, of course, with a Jumbo 64 and a second Jumbo 64, and then a mainsail. This kind of standard design that we have settled on. This is not a very aerodynamic rocket, I can tell you that right now. As far as our Delta V for actually getting to Gilly goes, this is probably sufficient. What's our thrust to weight like? 1.15. So we probably do want to heavy lift this as well. So let's go ahead and put on a couple of decouplers. That will be something along the lines of, not like that, but rather like that. And let's put on just some SRBs, and we'll go with Clydesdales. This will be massive, massive overkill. Okay. So they will be moved on down like this. And I believe that we're going to want to attach them higher up on the rocket. I want to be in the place tool for that. And we'll just place them, say, up here. Slightly lower than this. Where are you? There you are. Excellent. How's that height? That's actually good. That's quite good. Okay, so we'll put some aerodynamic nose cones on this. That should be these guys. No, they're a little on the small side. It should be these guys. Excellent. We will, of course, need to strut this together. So we will go into our structural, and we will put together some strut connectors. These are just going to connect in over here, and then down here. Easy peasy. And as far as ascending through the atmosphere goes, what is this thrust to weight going to be at anyway? With both of these running 1.81, without this running 1.46, that's actually fine. We can run this with just the SRBs as we ascend, and then when those burn out and we want to detach them, we can fire our mainsail at that time. That'll work great, and we can put in some tail fins for aerodynamics. Let's take a look at our center of mass and our aerodynamic overlay, and these are aeroplane tail fins, which I feel like are probably slightly overkill, but let's find out. Yes, they are. Okay, so let's go with regular tail fins. Even those are overkill. Exciting. As the center of mass comes down, it will become more maneuverable, I believe. But this will be very stable. Probably too stable. We could put them there, and then we could put a secondary set up here to deal with that. That will be better, I feel like. So something along the lines of this. And then we will, of course, need a tanker that can land next to this on Gilly, or close-ish to this on Gilly, and then attach into this docker, and then go into Eve orbit for refuel. Excellent. It is, however, time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we will fly this out to Gilly next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time.